Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity podcast. I am your host, Life Coach Shereka Dunston, and today I am joined by a very special guest, Yolanda Marie. Welcome to the show, Yolanda.
Hi, Shereka. Thank you for having me.
Hi, and I have to tell the listeners, we go way back to my early coaching days, Yolanda. Like 2013, 2014, when I was a baby.
Yeah, Woo. Yeah. We do. Got some stories to tell. Had some laughs. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Mm-hmm. But thank you and welcome to the show. Today, we are talking about peace. I think peace may be the most popular topic on the show, which is all good. I like talking about peace. Mm-hmm. But before we get started, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Okay. Well, I am Yolanda Marie, and I am based in North Carolina as of recently. I'm originally from Northwest Indiana, but I do reside in North Carolina now. So Shereka and I are actually neighbors, sort of. And you can find me on Instagram or in other little pockets of the internet. I have two places that I hang out, at More Intentionally and also at Written with Intention. And my passion is supporting creatives, particularly Black creatives, and even more specifically, writers, in centering self-care and intentional living as a way to sustain their creativity. So yeah, that's what I do.
I love that. I love that. And y'all, let me just tell y'all something about Yolanda. She is multi-talented. When I say multi-talented, multifaceted. She's a life coach. She's a yoga instructor. She can do hair, y'all. She's a nurse. Wait, you do some other stuff like outdoorsy stuff. Yeah. Like, you're amazing. You do so many great things. You're welcome. And I'm so happy that we're practically neighbors now. Yeah. So, once I feel like it's safe for me to go outside, I will be meeting up with Yolanda for the first time in person. Sooner rather than later.
Yes. I can't wait.
Me neither. Okay. So, Yolanda, we're talking about peace today. And I feel like since, you're a yoga instructor, like this is right up your alley, right? What does peace mean to you?
I can go in several directions with that, but primarily to me, peace just means alignment and congruence, having that alignment between what you say and between what you say you want and it might not always manifest as what your life looks like at the moment, but what you're working towards, and having integrity with your word and what you want, what you believe in, your values. Because when you don't have congruence there, you're not going to have peace. And yeah, I'm not about that.
Come on, Yolanda. Listen. That's it right there. Alignment and congruence. Y'all, I say this to my individual coaching clients, and see, because I work mostly now with other life coaches, people forget I still work with regular everyday people who do not identify as life coaches. And I actually coach their lives, go figure, life coach Shereka. But one of the things we talk about are their core values. And if how they're living does not align with their core values, it's really hard to find peace that way. It's really hard to find joy that way. So yeah, things gotta line up. And when you say integrity, listen, Yolanda, I'm all about some integrity. And there are so many people, especially nowadays, who really don't care about integrity, right? For whatever reason. Maybe it's because of money, maybe it's because of capitalism. And we've briefly talked about this before. But whatever it is, it just seems like it's lacking. But yes, alignment and congruence.
Yes. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. Okay. Ooh. See, you just took me down a path. I'm like, okay, this isn't about you, Shereka. This is about Yolanda.
It's about us.
So, because I brought it up and I introduced it, can we just talk about capitalism and how, you know, it affects creatives.
Mm-hmm.
Can you just speak to that, Yolanda?
Very much. So, and that's kind of been a soapbox I've been on for the past couple of weeks, but we are worth so much more than what we produce. And our art, whatever that may be, is worth so much more than our ability to monetize it and commodify it, you know, but the world have us think otherwise, you know, and they have us diminish our value based on, you know, if the numbers aren't adding up. And it's just not about that. And it can be so discouraging, especially for creatives. You know, you lose your joy, you lose your why. Like, why am I doing this? They make you, you know, not love the things that you love, you know, and make you, I don't know. Yeah.
And it'll disturb your peace, right?
Completely.
It's wow, but it's the way of the world in which we live, especially here in the United States, you know. If you're an artist who makes a living with your art, it has to be hard to put a price on it, right? Or to, you know, produce at somebody's whim. Like, oh, I want this, and it needs to look this way. And oh, can you change this? Can you fix that?
Yes.
But capitalism, we gotta eat, right?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a place for, you know, the money piece, but does that have to be everything?
Let me answer that. No, it doesn't. It does not. And when people realize that, I think that's when they start to find peace, right? Yeah. As a coach, and you know, I'm creative in my own rights. I don't know if I would call myself a creative. I had to ask Yolanda. I was like, girl, can I join your group? Because I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like a creative, but I don't know.
So creative.
Thank you. But you know, like, I just totally lost my train of thought going on my little creative rant. Am I a creative? Am I not a creative? But okay, Yolanda said I'm a creative, so I'm a creative. But when we think about how we show up in this world, right, and how we produce art and how we want to be visible, and even dealing with like social media and how things have changed so much, especially since a lot of us have been stuck in the house, you know, or we've chosen to be in the house, or if you can't choose to be in the house because you got to go do things and live, I totally get that too. But the world has definitely shifted in the past couple years, right? And with social media and marketing and all that jazz, like even with being a life coach, it's so much different than it was 2 years ago before the world shut down, right? And when we think about peace and, you know, being able to just live in alignment with our values, living, you know, with integrity. And sometimes, you know, you may feel pressured to do things you wouldn't normally do because of the times we live in, because we got to eat, we have to pay bills, right? But money isn't everything. And I know as a person who coaches new coaches, people come to me and they're like, so how do I make my first 6 figures? And I'm like, is that why you want to be a coach? Because I don't think I'm the mentor for you. Because when it starts being about money, is it really about helping people? Is it really about your art even?
Yes. Yeah. Very much. And just finding that balance. I mean, as a creative, as a coach, as anybody, you know, being able to listen to your body, you know, when something doesn't feel right. But there's a fine line between, you know, you being out of your comfort zone and you just being totally out of alignment. So just knowing the difference.
Well, that's a good point, Yolanda, because tiptoeing out of your comfort zone is uncomfortable. It is, you know, and as a coach, I encourage people to tiptoe outside of their comfort zones literally every day. And it doesn't always feel good, but it's definitely a different feeling than when something isn't lining up or aligning to, you know, how you want to live your life. How can you tell the difference? Like, can you talk about that?
I don't know. It may show up differently for everybody, you know, but for me, I just know in my gut, in that first initial feeling. And anytime I have to do all these mental gymnastics to make it fit and make it stick, I mean, it's just not sustainable. And you can always course correct, usually.
Yes, indeed. I like that. Mental gymnastics. If y'all gotta do a whole bunch of mental gymnastics, it's not for you, y'all. Mm-hmm. And listen to your guts. Mm-hmm. Like, that's so important. Like, our intuition tells us so much. And, our guts will not steer us in the wrong direction. And sometimes we try to ignore our gut and we will go in the wrong direction, but you can always pivot. You can always backtrack. You can always start again. But your gut won't lie to you.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So, Yolanda, why do we need peace? Why do you think it's important?
I think for anything to be sustainable, we have to have peace. Because again, back to the gut again, I'll just speak from my experience. It affects my rest. It affects the way that I show up, and we want to feel good about what we do. So it's just so important to have peace. And then by the same token, sometimes with peace, you have to acknowledge that getting to a point of peace, the road might not be peaceful because sometimes you have to push back. So that's the flip side of that coin.
Yes, indeed. Peace is a tricky little thing, right? Because it's not a destination. Right. It's more like a state of being despite what's going on in your life, right? Mm-hmm. So you may be going through hard times, something may be causing you distress, but there's still a way for you to find peace, right? But there are also instances where things cause you a lot of distress and it's not worth sacrificing your peace. That's right. So, as Yolanda said, you got to find that balance. You have to figure it out for yourself. And that's not something someone can tell you for you. Right. There are things I've walked away from. Let me just say, I've walked away from jobs. I've walked away from a whole bunch of jobs. Let's be real. Because they disturbed my peace. Mm-hmm. And I could feel it in my gut. And I was in distress. There was so much anxiety. And it's like, you know what? This isn't worth it. Yes. This is not worth it. Yeah. And, I get it. Being an entrepreneur, and that's all I have right now, and my wonderful husband, thank goodness for him. But being an entrepreneur isn't easy. The money's not guaranteed at all. So, it's a different type of hard. Yeah. But at least I can say for me, it doesn't cause me distress. I can still keep my peace. Whereas, working in a career where, I had a good job. I was a social worker. I was working for a college, a university that's very popular and well known. Mm-hmm. Great benefits working for the state, but it still wasn't worth my peace. Mm. Yeah. Yeah. You have to be able to weigh that for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then you have to know your voice, because then sometimes, let's always preface everything with what works for me and how I know, because sometimes you take things to other people and they may have a different vision for you and a different vision of what peace should look like for you, because you should be okay, financially, you should be okay, socially, you should be okay. It looked real cute, but they don't know, and people will talk you right out of what you know. So
that is so true. I know a lot of people had questions about me leaving my last job. Like, wait, what? Someone specifically said on Facebook, I thought you liked that place. I was like, what? Who said I didn't like it? Right. But I had just posted pictures of my last day and I was like, people will make judgments. People will have their own opinions. But here's the thing, what works for you may not work for them. Yeah. And I say this as an entrepreneur who for a long time worked a full-time job and did entrepreneurship, where, my business baby was more like a neglected child, but that's okay, And for some people, that's what brings them peace, having their side hustle and, working full-time or, being creative part-time and, doing something else full-time to pay the bills. So you have to find your peace for you. And that's okay. So in terms of finding peace, Yolanda, Are there strategies you could recommend to our viewers and listeners about how to find peace or to create peace in their lives?
One thing I recommend quite often is just finding a space to be still. The world is so noisy, and sometimes, like I say, you can't hear your own voice. So really just finding space to be still, be quiet, and, acknowledge what your voice is and acknowledge what you want. And, you have to be honest with yourself. Is this what I want? Does this bring me peace? Is this true for me?
I like that. Is this true for me?
And then a step further, and what's even truer, take it, and what's even truer than that, just to get to the heart of it.
Yes. Yeah. But being still, you have to start there. You have to start with being still. And it's so hard to be still when you live in this world where, you have notifications constantly going off. You may have kids, around you moving, making noise. You may share a space with like a partner or a roommate. There's so many noisy things going on. Maybe there's like noise outside, a dog barking or anything, but you still have to be able to find that stillness to get away and to focus on what's true for you.
You do. So that, and then also journaling. I mean, that's my holy grail there, just getting it out on paper. I mean, even if you have to burn it afterwards, and that's okay too. But it just helps you purge everything and just really get to the heart of what you feel.
Yes, indeed. I know when I struggle with like insomnia, I journal. So I can dump all my thoughts out of my head and go to sleep peacefully. It is life-changing. And normally I'm not a journaler. I will say that. But when my sleep is disturbed for a little bit too long, I'm like, okay, Shereka, you need to write this down. And I have all these different journals that I don't use. But, it's very helpful. And, you can journal pretty much anywhere, which is so cool.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I keep a journal by my bed. I have a journal by my desk, although I just told y'all I don't journal that much. And I even have a special like notes app on my phone to journal and to jot things down. It's so important to get those things out.
Very much so.
I love that, journaling and being still and asking yourself some questions. Yeah. So let me ask you this for, folks who are listening who may not journal. Where do you start with journaling? How do you journal, Yolanda?
Well, the thing is, it doesn't have to look a certain way. I've made some really profound notes on a napkin at a restaurant. So, I mean, it doesn't have to look a certain way. Nikki Giovanni said something about you'll never write if you're writing with somebody looking over your shoulder. And that's a very loose paraphrase. Sorry, Miss Giovanni. But that's kind of, you just have to get it out. Just start. If you don't know what to say, write. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Just get the pen moving, and that activates your brain, and you'd be surprised what you come up with.
I love that. And I love how you shared, you've written profound notes on a napkin. So my little confession, I done told y'all like 5 times in the last 3 minutes, I don't really journal. However, I have index cards that I like write down notes on and they're just all over my desk. And I just, write things down and get things out. And I never thought of that as a way of journaling.
Oh, yeah.
Look, you taught me something new. Look at you coaching me today, Yolanda. I love it. Coaching me. So as we wind down this conversation, Yolanda, is there anything else you would like to say about peace or finding peace?
I would like to say just really prioritize making that central in everything. I mean, it could be about where you work. It could be about your home life. It could be about your relationships. Does it bring you peace? Do you have peace on it? And I think it's just a theme that it'll follow you through life. The way we show up in one space is the way we show up in most. They say all, but sometimes it's most. And I just want all of everything that I'm attached to have a theme of peace. And I just encourage everybody to, see what that looks like in their life.
I love that. So before we go, Yolanda, can you just remind the viewers and the listeners how they can find you online again?
Certainly. So I'm mostly on Instagram. You can find me at Written with Intention. And that's mostly where I share. I'm an avid reader and love anything word related. So you'll find things about what I'm reading or what I'm writing. And then over at More Intentionally, you'll find things more based towards self-care and creatives. And I also have an affinity group now also for Black creatives. And if you send me a message over on IG, we can connect about that. Just a place for us all to come together in community and keep each other on the path to centering self-care and keeping our art sustainable.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for being a guest today, Yolanda.
Having me.
You're welcome. And thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to another episode of the Peace, Purpose, and Prosperity podcast. I am your host, Life Coach Shereka Dunston.